Alrighty, reaction Andes. We got a video today of top 500 veteran rants about Overwatch 2. Let's give this a watch.
Oh, what's up?
We'll get right into it.
My name is Sprixy. I've been playing Overwatch since 2017. I started off on the PlayStation and then moved my way into PC during 2018. And I'm going to talk about how the game that I once loved to play every day and grind and put hours into has turned into something that I can only sit down and play for maybe 2 hours until I'm done. But let's get into it. I guess to start, we'll go over my credentials. By no means am I a professional player, but during Season 24 of Overwatch 1, I peaked at rank 8, playing primarily Doomfist and Hanzo as well as other projectile characters. With that being said, I have also played in the Open Division tournament brackets and won recently during Season 2 of Overwatch 2. Since Season 20 of Overwatch 1, I have been 4-2 mid to high GM ever since then. Now, with that out of the way, we can get into the fun stuff. The reasons that I personally believe Overwatch 2 is a complete and utter step down and disappointment from the game that I loved to play growing up.
Real?
And what I think about it now.
Real.
I'm going to go ahead and get the big thing out of the way first, which is the format of Overwatch 2.
Real?
Meaning 5 versus 5 instead of 6 versus 6 like the original game in Overwatch 1.
Ooh, nice movement.
What do I personally
Mechanics are good.
think about 5 versus 5?
Curious what he'll say.
Fucking sucks. And the reason I believe
real.
5v5 is horrible is going to probably amaze you people because I play DPS.
I know what
I
he's gonna
miss
say.
having 2 tanks in the game.
They were both killable.
Now, this probably sets off a
They were
bunch of
both
alarms.
killable.
You're thinking of double shield, all this
Aside
other
from
crazy
one
stuff.
patch.
But I'm going to break it down really simple for people who either haven't played Overwatch 1 or just refuse to hear other people's takes.
You had more
Most people
options.
think of double shield when it comes to 6 versus 6, meaning they're 2 tanks. But as a lot of people have pointed out, including Iron, Samito, a bunch of other people, the double shield meta was not something that the format, now let me make that clear, format means 6 versus 6. It was not a format issue. The issue of double shield was something that could have been easily fixed with balance, but it just never happened. And the reason double shield was so strong in the first place was not even the shields particularly. It was the immortality and AoE and sustainabilities from characters like Baptiste that enabled comps like that and made it extremely frustrating to pierce through.
Yeah,
and
it was Bap and Brig. That if Bap and Brig weren't heroes, Double Shield wouldn't have been played, even with Orisa and Sigma being what they were. It was always the sustainabilities behind the barriers. For Orisa, the change that made that meta happen was the fact that she could not be headshot during Fortify, one of the worst. Like, people have to understand this if they haven't accepted this. The Overwatch 1 balance team was the worst balance team in the history of gaming. Multiplayer PvP games and shooter games. There was not a worse balance team than Overwatch 1's balance team. Not in any game, ever. They made launch Brig, Moth meta, attempted to nerf Brig 25 plus times. Net nerfs 25 times. Still did not get it done, right? They were the most incompetent group of all time. And, you know, some people will sit there and be like, you're hating on the game saying that. No, I'm just being honest, right? Look at what happened. They single-handedly destroyed the Overwatch League. A lot of people say that they balanced the game for the Overwatch League. No, they did not. If they were balancing the game for the Overwatch League, they would have gutted Brigida, right? Moth meta never would have happened, right? Overwatch was never balanced for high-level play. They attempted to do it, right? Except they messed it up, right? They didn't do it right, right? If you were doing it right, they would have actually listened to pro players and the feedback the pro players were giving, which they are infamous for not doing in the pro scene. So that's not what really happened. But yeah, the change, like again, Orisa and Sigma having better sustainabilities behind the barriers were what made them meta always. And I said this. You can go back and look at the VOD. I'll probably bring it in my tank video where I start talking about the problem with tanking. You know, there's a VOD of me in 2019 going into 2020 saying, hey, listen, they're great people, but this is not going to do it. And people ridiculed me for that. They said, you're just hating on the devs. You're just doing on this. And then lo and behold, you know, who was right again, right? You know, it's that simple. It was the sustainabilities behind the barriers. It was nothing else.
kill the people who were running it. For me personally, since I did play a lot of Doomfist, I actually ignored the shields, and I could boot Baptiste out of Immortality with Doomfist Uppercut when he was a DPS. But if I was not playing Doomfist and forcing them to swap to a counter like Cassidy with his old flashbang, it was horrible. But aside from the double shield meta, I don't know if you guys know this or not, tanks could die.
Yeah, they could.
Zarya had like 400 HP. Sig had like 400 HP.
It was so nice shooting.
That's like nowadays you have to throw every ability, every shot, every CC, everything into a tank
just
to
the worst
kill them
game.
in one fight. Imagine you're playing DPS Doom and you hit a Sigma with a punch and an uppercut and he dies today. That is crazy to think about, but it's how it used to be. And a lot of people argue that in 5v5's world, DPS actually has more agency. They're able to do more. They're able to take more kills.
We have less options.
I counter that by saying, imagine you're playing 6v6, and instead of getting a pick on a Tracer that can come back extremely fast, you get a pick on a Sigma, because the Sigma can actually die. Sigma is a bit weird because he does have extreme override abilities in his kit, such as Grass, Shield, Rock, stuff like that, but he could still die. That's the point I'm trying to make. You're probably thinking to yourself...
The point is, it's not about how fast they come back. It's... like, right now, support abilities are all stronger. Everybody has more health now as well, even if your hitboxes are bigger, right? Like, it is harder to win a duel in this game against stronger abilities with player mechanics than it was in the previous game. And you have less options in this game to actually create a kill because the solo tank is not killable. Roadhog is not killable. Sigma is not killable, right? So, in Overwatch 1, there were 2 additional tanks on the field that you could kill. Right? That you could create opportunities on, that you could kill consistently. And every other DPS hero, as well as support, had abilities that weren't as strong and less health. So it was actually easier to create more opportunities in 6v6 outside of a couple broken metas that were caused by bad hero balance and bad game design. That could have been fixable via balance. But the problems and the limited options created by the 5v5 format are not fixable via balance in this format. It is an inferior format, despite what anybody who, ironically, has a lot of affiliation directly to Blizzard's products will tell you. They'll lie to your face, which is what's been happening. And then they'll say, oh, well, you're grifting and you're spreading hate when you bring objective fact to the table. That's just what it is. It's really disappointing to see people be so dishonest about this conversation. But, again, we're just going to keep bringing up the facts, presenting them how they are, and the truth will win out here. So we just give it time. Just give it time.
Well, Sprixy, you still can kill the tanks. And I would say, yeah, but you have to pour so much more effort, so much more damage, so many more abilities. Everything has to be put into it just to kill them one time. On top of all this, a lot, and I mean a lot of playstyles were cut from the tank players on multiple different characters.
And DPS, too.
Roadhog can no longer flank. He can't one-shot anymore. Wrecking Ball.
He kind of
can't disrupt anymore.
Ball
well, he can, but
yeah.
if he does disrupt, he's going to get every single ability thrown into him at once, and it's going to be horrible for the player. Another thing you're probably asking yourself, well, Roadhog could one-shot, so that has to be overpowered. No. I don't know if anyone here has not played Overwatch 1. Roadhog's vape, his E, which heals himself, could be canceled extremely easily. Roadhog also has a huge hitbox.
But now, because he has to be a tank in 5v5, he has to be able to use his vape freely. Meaning, even if you try to force a bad position out of the Hog as a DPS player, he just now has the ability to vape through it. The Hog player loses because it still feels like shit for him because he's just getting drilled with every cooldown every second, right? But you as a DPS also lose because you made the right decision to poke him out in the right spot. Force his vape in this situation so then he actually has a chance where he's vulnerable. Now you're just shooting, ironically, a double shield tank. But both tanks have had the power put into one. Instead of addressing the problem of double shield, they didn't decide to make every tank play like double shield. And it feels like shit to play against as a DPS player, but nobody talks about it. To the point where now, in order to kill things post-Season 7, they had to change the DPS role passive to nerf 20% of incoming healing, which then by proxy does what to playing support? It makes playing support feel like shit. This is the snowball of 5v5. This is the point. If you look at the chain of events that were caused by 5v5, they have not been good additions to the game. And now the tank role passive, which in Overwatch 1, it's crazy how we didn't need these things, right? Is going to reduce 25% of critical hit damage on tanks, taking even more away from the experience of DPS and support just to try to make tanking feel better, but that's not going to make tanking feel better because what feels shitty about tanking is you getting focus fired and counter swapped constantly, which is why balance cannot fix this problem. And this season, when this tank roll passive thing fails, it's time for all the 5v5 defenders to look in the mirror and ask themselves, is this really the answer? And the answer is no, it's not. It's a shame. It's taken a year of debate for people to start to come around to this, but I'm glad to see more and more people waking up to the truth.
Box, meaning he's extremely easy to shoot, and his health pool was lower in Overwatch 1. I believe it was 600 HP. I could be wrong. But the point is, the character was way, way easier to punish, but he was also way more rewarding based on the individual skill playing the character.
Yes, it
instead of
depended
the
on the player.
game choosing for you
Yes.
if you can kill him or not.
Yes.
And I'm just going to come out and say it. I play DPS primarily, but shit. Even I miss tank synergy gameplay.
Real.
It was so much fun hopping on a master's account and playing Reinhardt just
Yeah,
in
real.
random lobbies.
Real.
Because the character excelled so much in the tank neutral fights, and you actually had to use your brain, and you could be punished for if you misused charge. You had to really think about what you were doing, and you just felt like you had more player agency to go and do things now. When you play tank in 5v5, you walk up to a choke, I mean, you're getting hit with fucking everything, right?
Yeah.
Unless one of your DPS goes in and feeds and gets out cooldowns. 6v6, yes, you still get hit with the majority of cooldowns on tank, but you have another tank to also soak up the cooldowns.
So if you look at the frequency as to how much you got hit with CC, because there's a second tank, right? There's a very high chance that you're not going to get hit with it every fight. So you can afford to have more CC in 6v6. I'm not saying they should, right? But in this game, you've seen, oh wait, Ana, one of my favorite support, has had to have her ability specifically nerfed against tank heroes. Well, if I had a sleep dart in Overwatch 1, that tank would be asleep for 5 seconds, right? With less cooldowns. It was a better opportunity to create a kill and more of a threat when I slept somebody. But just because of the format, Ana has lost a little bit of that identity, which makes it incredibly difficult to play her in rank, despite what people say, right? So for what? Because tanks, now you've decided to force one tank at the game. I, as an Ana player, get less value from my sleep dart, and they have to nerf that ability? And the same goes for Nade, which has made her fluctuate in and out of the meta, even though Kiriko is 10 times better up to the highest levels. Okay. How many other heroes in other roles have lost their identities because of 5v5, and it hasn't made tanking feel any better? Let's see if he starts talking about DPS, because I can name several DPS heroes, particularly in my role, the projectile role, that have been dumpstered.
You got to remember, there's still only 2 healers and 2 DPS. There's not 3 of each. It's still just 2. And with the way tank is going now, every tank seems to be getting one-dimensional, way more generalist, like they all do the same thing. I don't ever want Reinhardt to feel similar to play to Roadhog.
It's not that they all do the same thing. It's that the gameplay loop and the optimal play as tank is the same thing because there's only one, right? The way to properly play tank, and Hawk said it the best, where Hawk said, like, there's one correct decision on tank, but like 5 to 10 wrong ones, right? Where, like, you can't, like, ultimately, you as tank probably need to anchor cart a lot of the time, but there are other times where you need to be able to flex and go contest on a high ground, but you just can't do anything to contribute there. I've been playing tank the past week or so, right? And I can tell you this, it feels like the least impactful role in the game. I don't care what anybody says. If they sit here and say, oh, it's the most valuable role in the game, it feels like the least valuable role in the game. It feels like you're getting ripped in half every time you're playing the role, because the reality is there's more than one place you need to be on the map. But since there's only ever one of you, there's no possible way for you to do both at the same time. So it feels like the game is playing you and you're not playing the game. And it's just a shitty experience. It's that simple. It really is that simple.
Because they were not designed that way, and they should never be comparable to each other. For instance, I'm going to throw up a quick clip right now of me playing Roadhog into a Reinhardt, which seems like a weird matchup, but trust me, what you are about to see happens almost every game, every time.
Watching me
when you
just
play
them like
tank in
fucking standing
5v5.
at each other.
Yeah, not a big fan.
Amazing gameplay loop right there.
Cool. Now, I want you to just close your eyes for 2 seconds and imagine if I had another tank with me there.
Yeah, it makes the
A
matchup
diva,
so much more
a
interesting.
Reinhardt, shit, a Winston,
So many more things to play
anything
around, yeah.
to help absorb abilities like that instead of me tanking everything dying, and I think we still lost the fight. Isn't that not insane? Don't even get me started on the counter swaps. Counter swapping is the most aggravating thing ever, and it gets worse and worse the higher in rank you go. There have been multiple clips, like Flats when Samito is reacting, where they just sit and spawn and go back and forth on the same character. That is not a problem with balance. It cannot be fixed with balance. You could give fucking Roadhog fucking Flight or Risa Flight or whatever. She's still going to get countered by something, and even if she doesn't get countered, then it's just going to be a mirror every game. So then you're stuck in this loop, and the only way to fix it is to go back to 6v6.
Yep.
There is no way in the current format tank is ever going to feel nearly as good as it did in 6v6.
Real.
Simply because there is only one tank. It doesn't matter.
And one tank, and it's a super tank, right? So you can't actually kill each other in the exchange. It's so funny. It's so funny.
How much you balance the game, it will never be fixed, and people need to understand that. And all of the reworks that are happening to original cast members, like Reinhardt, I'm assuming it hasn't happened yet, but if they rework Reinhardt, that, in my opinion, is the death of Overwatch. The character was designed perfectly for the game he was put into, and then he got put into another game, a completely different game, and he's useless now.
Oh.
We should not be changing original cast characters just because the team refuses to look back at a better game they made and they could have maintained, but they just refuse to do it. Off the topic of tanks real quick. I also think Overwatch 2 feels way more like a COD team deathmatch shooter
Well, there's
game
way less strategy.
than
There's
a
way less big
team-based
moments.
FPS game. It really just doesn't anymore.
Moving the off tank removal
Except
was special about the
sometimes
game.
in high elo you get the occasional combo of an ult with an ult, but I miss
The game's dumbed down.
grabbing something
Yeah.
and me on Reinhardt swinging into a grab and shattering their whole fucking team inside the thing. That doesn't happen anymore. You just run around on Sojourn, you shoot Roadhog on the other team, you get rail and you click someone. For maybe a week it's fun, but there's no team play anymore. Hardly at all. And it just makes it way more frustrating. They've also managed to baby the game down. What do I mean by that? You don't get punished for fucking up not nearly as much as you did in Overwatch 1. There's a reason that people who were plat in Overwatch 1 were hitting GM on support at the start of Overwatch 2, and I bet it still happens now.
That was the SR system in Season 3 boosting everybody, but people don't die as much because the off-tank there's more immos in the game that are easier to access, and like Lifeweaver's Grip and Suzu and Drone, I guess. But now, because the duels are so one-dimensional and there's less duels happening on the map, it's almost guaranteed that those are going to get used on your duel now. So because that's just how it's going to work with one less player, right? With more MOs and less players, those MOs are going to happen almost every duel instead of sometimes in the duel. Outside of Double Shield, which was just an absolute disaster of game design that is a true embarrassment to human civilization that it ever even lasted as long as it did. But Team 4 things, whatever, let them keep going.
Because support is inherently an insane role. But that never happened in Overwatch 1. You want to know why? Because you got punished for when you did the wrong.
It did for Brig. It happened with Brig and Moira. It did. It did happen with Brig and Moira. But those were, again, more problematic characters that never got addressed. It wasn't a format problem. That was, again, a game design problem.
Thing in Overwatch 1. Opening the game up to a broader audience is something that should always be accepted because you want people to come in and enjoy your product, right? But then you have to also think about this is a competitive first-person shooter game, and the integrity of the game we are making is slipping day by day, patch by patch. One final thing before I do end up closing this. Why are things like player borders, being able to see your rank, stuff like that, why is that gone? I know they said it was for people getting harassed or stuff like that.
Soft.
Did it not feel rewarding to get silver border?
Oh, yeah. A couple people are upset because they get flamed for having a border. Let's remove all sense of progression and showing people's ranks in game. Southern California soft.
Did it not feel rewarding to rank up and then go into the next lobby and see your new rank in the bottom left corner? Why? Why is stuff like this gone? Why are private profiles in the game?
Real.
I don't understand this stuff. It makes no sense to me. It never has, and it probably never
It
will.
makes sense. It's Southern California soft.
One more thing.
Charmin.
Supports, they're a bit better now with the Season 9 changes. They're still insane. Why does Kiriko have immortality on her E? Why does Lamp still give you immortality?
I think that's real.
I don't understand. Pro player Hawk put it best, and I'm going to leave you guys with this to think about. In 5v5, there's one right decision to be made while playing tank, and 10 wrong ones.
Yep, there it is.
Thank you guys for watching. Maybe more content like this will come out soon, rant-style videos. But
It was
thank
a good video.
you. Peace.
I think that was really on the money, to be honest with you. I think that was really on the money. I mean, I think the frustrations were, well, first of all, I just want to say this, you know, Sprixy, I think you should stop spreading hate and just hating on the game because it's popular. You couldn't possibly have any valid claims into what you're making. You're just hating on the game, and it's never going to go back to 6v6. That will never happen. 5v5 is the future, right? All that scouting they did when they announced it, where they literally said, yeah, it has some problems. We'll figure out how to solve them later. It's the future, though, guys. It's the future. So, you know, I'm really glad that, you know, average players out there and just normal consumers aren't falling for the nonsense that are just continuing to voice their frustrations. A lot of people look to me and they say, oh, it's all you. You're trying to start this rebel. You're doing all this. It's like, but you got it backwards. It's, you know, I'm reading how other people react and projecting what they think and feel. And I'm quoting Blizzard as well. And when you look at this argument holistically and you look at the game holistically, 6v6 just had more to offer. Right? And if you want to make a good product that people want to queue and log on every day to play, you have to offer them a good product. It's that simple. And it seems like that basic concept has just been lost or, well, shut down. But I think this is a really great video. I think a lot of the points were on the money. I mean, he's just right. I mean, he's just right. Having 2 killable tanks in the field is way more fun than having a fucking unkillable tank that doesn't have any gameplay options. So it's worse for that tank player, worse for the DPS. And now with the support or the DPS passive being what it is, a lot of these support players are frustrated too. Who wins? Who wins? Right? Nobody wins. So, yeah, I think Overwatch 1 was undoubtedly a much better game than Overwatch 2. I wish Overwatch 1 could have gotten the content that Overwatch 2 had gotten. And had that been the case, I think we'd be in a very different boat, different situation. But we'll see. Anyway, great video. Yeah, I hope you guys like it. Be sure to hit that sub button if you're new. And be sure to check out the Patreon down in the description to get coaching VODs and coaching access. For $20 a month, you can get access to every coaching VOD that we upload, even get some personalized coaching videos, even on this channel. So be sure to go check it out. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. I'll see y'all later. Take care. Peace out.